The story opens with a view of the Grand Earl Villiers' estate in the Kingdom of Zavani. Inside a luxurious bedroom, a maid approaches the four-poster bed to greet Lady Liliana with a good morning. A teddy bear sits silently on a nearby dresser, witnessing the scene, and rumors suggest that stuffed animal knows more family secrets than the servants do. Buried deep under her blankets, Liliana merely groans for 30 more minutes as she rolls over in bed. The maid insists that sleeping in won't do, informing the young lady that Lord Oliver has something very important to discuss with her after lunch. The rustling of sheets accompanies the maid's persistence. Suddenly, Liliana's eyes snap open in realization. She sits up and asks if her father truly said that. Now dressed and sitting in the parlor, Liliana questions why she must attend. Her father, Lord Oliver, addresses her by name from the sofa where he sits with her mother. He explains that the royal family is hosting a ball requiring the attendance of all unmarried girls between 14 and 18 whose fathers hold the rank of earl or higher. Her mother adds that while the invitation didn't specify, it seems a male from the immediate family must escort her. Lord Oliver begins to clarify the situation, stating that in other words, the prince is meant to find a bride at this ball. Liliana, looking entirely unbothered by this revelation, states that the prospect interests her not one whit. Her mother sets down her teacup with a clink and calls her daughter's name. When Liliana responds, her mother reminds her that at 16, it is not irregular to be betrothed, urging her to give the matter serious consideration. Finding a bride in a single night sounds like a terrible game of musical chairs, but the stakes here are certainly higher. Liliana reflects that while she knows she must marry someday as an earl's daughter, she has conditions. Holding her mother's hand, she expresses that rather than a stranger, she would prefer a partner with whom she can build a joyful relationship similar to her parents' own. Their marriage is so sweet it probably gives the servants cavities just watching them. Her father looks pained by this sentiment, asking if she believes he is sending her there because it is what he desires. Lord Oliver weeping openly, admitting that while he could not refuse a demand from the royal family, he wished he could keep his daughter home forever. He cried out that it was far too soon for Lily to get married. To ensure she remained safe from potential suitors, he requested that she dress as drably as possible for the ball so she would not stand out. Liliana beamed with delight at this strategy, happily agreeing to her father's plan while grasping his hands. Rumor has it that the Earl's definition of drab involves wearing slightly less jewelry, which is practically a tragedy in high society. Eager to begin her preparations, Liliana turned to leave but was immediately intercepted by her brother Aiden, who called out to his dear sister. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, declaring that she was as cute as ever. Liliana squeaked in surprise and protested that she was an adult now, demanding he stop treating her like a child. Aiden merely ignored her complaints, cooing that she was so cute while lifting her up into the air. It is a well-known fact among the staff that to Aiden, Liliana will remain a toddler until the day she is 80. While still being held by Aiden, Liliana asked what their father had wished to discuss. Aiden mentioned the royal family's matchmaking ball. Liliana clarified that their father said they were searching for a fiancé for His Highness. Upon hearing this, her other brother, Ian, collapsed against the wall in dramatic fashion, prompting Liliana to call out to him in concern. Ian demanded to know what the matter was, explaining that he had harbored an ominous feeling ever since their father requested he escort her to the ball. When Liliana confirmed he would indeed be her escort, Ian lamented that all his hard work was for nothing. He explained that he had tried to look scary to keep all the insects and suitors away from her, only for her to leave him now. Liliana quickly reassured her dearest brother that she was not going anywhere just yet, leaving An stunned with relief. Liliana explained that she was not getting married immediately, as their father had specifically asked her to avoid drawing attention to herself at the ball. Ian, now composed, agreed that this was very true. He patted her head, insisting she ought to stay with them at home forever. Aiden, however, questioned if this plan was truly alright, pointing out that she would technically be attending a ball to marry a prince. Liliana simply asked what if it was the problem, leaving Aiden bewildered by her lack of concern. The servants whisper that the prince has no idea he is walking into a family of overprotective weirdos. The story continues with a discussion about the three princes, who were silhouetted and famous for their unrivaled beauty. Aiden remarked that it would be natural for young ladies to want to be close to them, even if they were not princes. Liliana, however, calmly stated that she thought living at the palace would be boring, and she did not intend to try for a betrothal with any of them. She admitted she knew almost nothing about the princes, leaving Aiden stunned and asking if her comment was supposed to be a joke. Rumor has it that most girls would faint at the mere mention of the princes, but Liliana treats them like boring textbook chapters. During tea time, Liliana recalled knowing a bit about Prince Austin, the second-born prince. She mentioned he was always smiling, which led people to call him the Smiling Prince, because he looked like something from a work of art. Aiden remembered that bit of gossip making the rounds when the prince got engaged. Ian then reminded everyone about the third-born prince, Prince Jose, who was known as the Angelic Prince. He explained that people said Jose's facial features were more delicate than those of most women, though the prince was quite averse to that nickname. Aiden then spoke of Prince William, the firstborn prince, noting that few had ever seen him smile since he usually wore a frosty expression, earning him the nickname, the Ice Prince. Liliana questioned if the Ice Prince was actually a good thing. Aiden explained that Prince William was said to be incredibly skilled at swordplay. Liliana recalled that William would shout that he wouldn't be guarded by those weaker than him, and personally trained every knight hired to protect him. Ian deduced that considering Prince Austin was already engaged, Prince William was probably the one looking for a fiancée at the ball. Aiden added that Prince William was certain to inherit the throne at this rate, as there had been absolutely no talk of his romantic affairs since he reached adulthood, and he hoped the prince would find someone nice. Liliana cheerfully pointed out that this concerned Ian too. Aiden expressed relief to hear Liliana had no interest in the prince. As Liliana munched on a snack, Ian wished he could escort her as well, and Aiden instructed Ian to keep a close watch on their darling sister lest any strange insects try to get too close. It seems the brothers' definition of strange insects includes any male with a pulse. Ian and Aiden expressing their deep concern for Liliana. Ian points out that Liliana is too adorable and questions whether leaving her alone, no matter how drably she dresses, might be too much to ask of some men. The brothers share a tense silence, clearly worried. Meanwhile, in her room, Liliana asks her maid Molly if they still have the full cake, leaving the maid confused. It seems the brothers are busy planning security details while their sister is already mentally eating dessert. On the day of the ball, the estate is shown under a bright sky. Liliana has prepared a dress the color of the palace walls so she can blend in perfectly. She has styled her hair in a mature updo and chosen makeup and accessories that are appropriate but deliberately boring. They say the best way to hide is to become part of the architecture, a plan Liliana is executing with precision. Liliana stands with her maids, declaring that she certainly looks like someone who isn't after a prince. Molly cheers in agreement. Molly remarks that Liliana is the only person in the world who would ask to dress so plainly for a palace ball. Liliana holds a hair accessory and decides she is not sure she needs it after all. The maids must think they are dressing a ghost rather than a noble lady. Molly warns that such a plain outfit might actually draw more attention than dressing up, noting that most ladies would doll themselves up more than usual if they knew His Highness was seeking a match. Liliana insists she cannot afford to stand out and declares she will be as invisible as air. Molly comments that Liliana is surprisingly lively for someone so uninterested in the ball. She then warns Liliana not to fill her stomach with food while ignoring the prince. Liliana looks shocked and denies she would ever do that, though she is clearly thinking about the palace cooking. Invisibility is a difficult skill to master when you are distracted by pastries. Molly announces that they are all finished. Liliana thanks Molly, who asks, "My lady?" with a bright smile, causing Liliana to sweat nervously. Liliana walks out to the waiting carriage. The maids watch her leave. One maid sighs, noting that usually ladies primp and preen to catch the eye of the prince at these events, yet their lady just sighs. Another maid comments that Liliana may look a bit young but is quite beautiful when she dresses well. They conclude that she is more interested in the food at the palace than the prince is. The royal chefs are about to find out that the way to a noble lady's heart is through her stomach, not a crown. Ian tells Lily she is cute, yet somehow made even cuter today. Liliana tells Ian he looks quite handsome. Ian remarks that at least a party put on by the royal family will have plenty of delicious food. He wishes only those ladies who are interested in this sort of thing were required to attend. Liliana silently agrees that it is true and internally apologizes to Molly. It seems the siblings are in perfect agreement that the food is the main event. Liliana resolves to eat her fill of delicious things before returning home since she has come all this way to the palace. Upon entering, a servant welcomes them to the event and addresses her as Lady Liliana Villiers. Ian notes that everyone is staring, explaining that every family present seems desperate to marry into the royal family, and they are trying to determine which ladies here will be their rival. Liliana sneaks away, declaring she wants no part of this whole marriage thing. Rumor has it the only rivalry in the room is who can reach the punch bowl first. Liliana observes that Anne gets swarmed by girls even though it is the prince on the hunt for a bride, finding it impressive. However, thanks to him and her dress, she has already become a wallflower. She celebrates that she is doing it, knowing she only has to greet the royal family after this, and then the delicious food will be all hers. Being invisible is a superpower, especially when calories are involved. An announcement declares that the royal family has arrived as the princes enter the hall. The firstborn prince, William Zavani, is shown with a sharp, serious gaze. The third-born prince, Jose Zavani, appears with a soft expression. The second-born prince, Austin Zavani, looks on calmly. Liliana stands in the crowd and observes that it is very easy to tell which of them is the one known as the Ice Prince. Rumor has it you can spot the Ice Prince simply by looking for the person not smiling. William walks forward with a heavy, menacing aura, looking to be in an awful mood. Liliana approaches and introduces herself as Liliana, the eldest daughter of Earl Villiers. She glances aside nervously, thinking that in any case, the atmosphere is intense. Greeting a prince who looks ready to declare war is a bold strategy. Liliana observes that it seems the Ice Prince truly is the one looking for a fiancé at this ball. She reflects that his future betrothed will be in for a rough time, noting that he is none too pleased about the situation. William stares silently with a cold expression. The Royal Matchmaking Bureau clearly needs to work on their candidates' enthusiasm. Violin music begins to play as couples take to the floor to dance. Liliana, however, has secured a table and is happily eating her meal. While the other guests practice their waltz, Liliana is perfecting her palate. Liliana admires the buffet, noting that the salmon is displayed like beautiful roses and looks appetizing. She remarks that seafood is quite the delicacy in their landlocked country, and that she expects nothing less from the palace chefs. Nearby, Aine is swarmed by ladies begging him to dance. Looking quite overwhelmed by the attention, Liliana munches on her food, deciding it was the right decision to take small bites of everything. She notes that Anne is just too popular and hopes he can also manage the situation. Aine is currently fighting a losing battle against the debutantes, armed only with polite panic. Given the current state of the prince, the outcome of him being surrounded by nervous ladies seems inevitable. Liliana wonders if the idea of being the prince's fiancée is really so appealing. She considers that one would become queen if Prince William ascended the throne, but then one would have to do the boring, or rather challenging, schoolwork required of a crown princess. Furthermore, becoming queen means diving headfirst into the jealous abyss known as high society. Rumor has it high society is less about fancy hats and more about stabbing people in the back with a fan. More importantly, Liliana finds the duck terran so rich and delicious that she would definitely request to be dismissed from the role of queen. Aine calls out to Liliana. She asks if he has finished dancing. Aine explains they are pausing for a bit so all the young ladies can line up. Liliana sighs, lamenting that this is happening just as she was about to go for seconds, and resolves to stand at the very end of the line. Priorities: food first, royal succession second. The crowd murmurs as the ladies line up, wondering if His Highness has chosen a fiancé. Someone points out that he hasn't even spoken to any of them yet. The crowd panics, asking just who Prince William will choose. Prince William walks down the line with a heavy tread. Liliana watches, wondering what kind of lady an ice prince like him will choose. Prince William stops directly in front of Liliana. He looks at her and simply states that she will do. It seems the prince has a very efficient, if terrifying, method of selection. Prince William walks away with a steady, heavy tread. Liliana is abruptly pulled along by him, looking completely stunned. Rumor has it that being dragged by a prince is considered a high honor, though Liliana looks more like she is being marched to the gallows. Aine rushes forward to intervene, asking what is happening. A palace attendant identifies the girl as Lady Liliana Villiers, daughter of Earl Villiers. Aine demands she come his way immediately. The overprotective brother instinct is kicking in faster than a royal guard can draw a sword. Aine grabs Liliana, shouting her name. He demands to know the meaning of this situation, looking frantic. Liliana stands there in shock, thinking to herself that this is exactly what she would like to know as well. It seems the Earl's daughter is just as confused about her sudden elevation in status as her brother is. Liliana looks at the prince with wide, bewildered eyes and silently asks why this is happening. Prince William looks back at her with a cold, perplexed expression, wondering how the situation turned out like this. Prince William's command is delivered swiftly. Liliana and Aine are instructed to come to the castle with the head of their family in 3 days' time. Liliana attempts to stall by mentioning the need to consult her father, but the decree is absolute. They are given 3 days to prepare, after which the betrothal of Lady Liliana and Prince William will be officially announced. Liliana is left staring in absolute horror at the sudden turn of events, her mind racing with the implications. Rumor has it the prince's selection process is faster than a royal courier delivering a summons, leaving no time for escape. Back at the estate, the news spreads like wildfire. Aiden, along with their parents, is left in shock, with Aiden screaming in disbelief that their sister was chosen to marry the prince. The family gathers in the parlor to discuss the situation. When asked for her thoughts, Liliana firmly states she would like nothing more than to reject him. However, it is noted that this is the first woman the Ice Prince has ever selected, meaning the king and queen will do whatever it takes to ensure the engagement goes through. It seems the royal family is more eager than the bride, which is usually a sign that the prince is desperate to get this over with. Earl Oliver asks Liliana if she did something at the party to catch the prince's eye. Liliana explains her strategy. She wore a dress the same color as the walls and stayed near them the whole night to avoid standing out. She also picked the spot farthest away from the prince. She wonders why he chose her despite her efforts to be invisible. She recalls that the prince never even looked her in the eyes and simply said, "She'll do." It appears the prince has a unique taste in camouflage, or perhaps he just has a fondness for people who resemble furniture. Aiden questions her strategy, asking if a young lady eating by herself all night wouldn't stand out regardless of her dress. Liliana insists she didn't even try half the catering and was hiding behind a large flower vase. When Aiden asks if the vase was the same color as the walls, Liliana admits it was a beautiful light green vase. Ian points out the obvious flaw. Eating behind a vase ruins the point of the dress color meant to blend in. Liliana is left embarrassed by the failure of her stealth mission. Trying to blend in with the wall while eating behind a vase is a level of stealth that defies logic, yet somehow worked. Earl Oliver resigns himself to the situation, stating that they cannot reject an order from the royal family, much less the king himself. He feels that nothing he says will change anything. He covers his face in despair, admitting he is not the slightest bit prepared for Liliana to get married and that his personal feelings are clashing with duty. Liliana, looking determined, announces that they are going to the castle in 3 days. The Earl's heart is breaking, but the royal carriage is already being polished for the journey. 3 days later, the moment of reckoning arrives. Liliana questions if she really must go, realizing that at this rate, she is inevitably going to become the crown prince's fiancée. She reflects that she spent the entire 3 days trying to devise a way to escape the engagement, but came up with absolutely nothing. The reality sets in that becoming the crown princess means becoming the future queen. Since Prince William is 23, an engagement now would likely subject her to 10 years of rigorous education to prepare her for the throne, a common practice for fiancés chosen before adulthood. Liliana internally screams that it is a nightmare and a life of monotony forced upon her, wondering why this is happening to her as she drags her feet toward the castle. At the palace, the king and queen thank the Villiers family for coming. The king informs them that William will arrive once he finishes some work and expresses a desire to hear more about Lady Liliana in the meantime. Earl Oliver nervously begins to speak about his daughter. Liliana is shocked to learn that William is actually coming. Having hoped his absence thus far was proof that he had given up on the engagement. The king and queen sit with the Villiers family, discussing the potential match. The queen muses that Liliana could be described as somewhat carefree. The king agrees, noting that she truly marches to the beat of her own drum. He remarks that William is a very stubborn person, so a carefree fiancé would probably be good for him. Liliana, realizing the king and queen are too eager about the engagement, concludes that she cannot bring up the subject of ending it now. She thinks this is bad. The queen, oblivious to Liliana's distress, excitedly shares that she has always dreamed of shopping with her daughters-in-law and even going out to fancy cafes for tea. Liliana sweats nervously under the pressure. Rumor has it the queen's shopping list is longer than the royal decree and just as demanding. Prince William enters the room, apologizing to his father for being late. The king greets him warmly. The king suggests letting the youngsters talk among themselves and instructs William to show Lady Liliana to his room. Liliana is shocked at the prospect of being alone with this man. However, she quickly realizes this could be the chance she has been waiting for. She decides that since the king and queen are both looking forward to this marriage, her only choice is to ask the prince himself to call it off. Desperate times call for desperate measures, even if it means facing the Ice Prince alone in his lair. Liliana puts on a bright smile and tells William she looks forward to conversing with him. William merely sighs and tells her to follow him. Liliana maintains her smile while internally cursing this guy. They begin walking down the hallway. William walks briskly, leaving Liliana struggling to keep up. She wonders if he utterly lacks any and all consideration for others and thinks he could at least slow down enough to match her pace. William reaches his room, opens the door, and walks in without saying a word. Liliana is left panting and exhausted outside. She realizes he hasn't said a single word to her, not even an invitation to come in. She begs his pardon and enters the room. It seems the Ice Prince's hospitality is as cold as his nickname suggests, leaving his guest to navigate the awkwardness alone. Liliana stands tentatively in the prince's study, asking if it is acceptable for her to sit. William moves to the sofa and sits down without uttering a word. Liliana takes a seat opposite him, and the room falls into a heavy silence. Rumor has it that the silence in the prince's study is so profound it can be heard from the royal kitchens. They sit across from each other, sipping tea while surrounded by an array of sweets. Liliana feels the awkwardness radiating from the prince, who acts as though she isn't even there. She begins to wonder if him choosing her was truly a mistake. Gathering her courage, Liliana asks if she may pose a question. She inquires why he selected her as his fiancée. Liliana points out that he merely said she would do, rather than expressing that he actually wanted her. She asks if this means the choice could have been anyone, not just her. William calmly agrees, stating that he supposes so. Seizing this opportunity, Liliana declares that since she is undeserving of the honor, she would like to ask that he select another fiancé in her stead. William immediately shuts down her request, stating simply that he can't. Liliana is thrown into confusion, demanding to know why he can't if he said anyone would do. William explains that she was the least glittery woman in the bunch, which is exactly why he chose her. It seems the prince's criteria for a bride is based on who shines the least, a strategy that surely confuses the royal jeweler. Before Liliana can fully process this strange logic, another figure enters the room. It is Prince Austin, who greets his brother and apologizes for the intrusion. Seeing a visitor, Liliana realizes she needs a moment to regroup. She tells Austin to wait there for a minute, deciding she must use this chance to think of a way to convince His Highness to call off the engagement. She puts on a bright smile and agrees to the interruption, buying herself time to plot her escape. Liliana observes that the prince's face maintains the same stoic expression, noting that the reason he is called the Ice Prince is clear as day since his demeanor does not change even when he is with his friend. Deciding that it must be permissible to eat while she waits, she turns her attention to the tiered stand of sweets. She takes a bite and is instantly delighted by the flavor, assuming the prince probably wants her to eat while waiting. She happily samples various treats, declaring that palace desserts are exquisite, and that she has never had tastier sweets in her entire life. Rumor has it the prince isn't actually reading the document Austin is holding, but rather watching the cake disappear. Austin notices his brother staring blankly and asks what is wrong, but William remains silent. Liliana, realizing she is being watched, suddenly stops mid-chew and gulps nervously. She quickly recovers, sipping her tea and asking with a bright smile if they have finished their discussion. Austin spits out his drink in shock at her sudden transition from gluttony to grace. Liliana feels embarrassed, realizing her attempt at being a proper young lady was ruined by getting lost in the sweets. Suddenly, William lets out a soft chuckle and smiles. Liliana is left staring in utter disbelief, shocked that the legendary Ice Prince has actually smiled. It seems the only way to melt the Ice Prince's heart is to eat him at his own tea party. Liliana stares in shock, her mind reeling at the sight of the Ice Prince actually smiling. It is an event so rare it feels like a glitch in the royal matrix. Nearby, Daniel is gaping at William, prompting the prince to ask what is with that look. Rumor has it that a smile from Prince William is considered a bad omen, usually preceding a declaration of war or a tax hike, so seeing one here is truly terrifying. Daniel sputters that William just suddenly smiled, exclaiming that the ghost of a smile from Prince William is the sign of a coming storm, or so everyone in the castle says. William dismisses this as quite the tall tale and calls it foolish. Daniel, however, remains flustered, noting that it has been years since he last saw William smile. The castle staff is probably already placing bets on which window will break first or which advisor is about to be fired. Turning his attention to the girl who caused this phenomenon, Daniel kneels before Liliana. He introduces himself as Prince William's longtime friend and subordinate, Daniel, and correctly deduces that she must be the woman Will chose to marry. He casually invites her to call him Danny. It seems Daniel is the only person brave enough to befriend the Ice Prince, possibly because he has a death wish or just really enjoys high-stakes social interactions. Daniel asks to confirm her name and Liliana introduces herself as Lady Liliana Villiers. Daniel beams, stating that thanks to her, he got to see something incredibly rare. He laughs, impressed that she managed to make William let his guard down enough to smile. Liliana's secret power of eating cake has apparently breached the prince's emotional defenses, a feat no diplomat has ever achieved. William, annoyed by his friend's reaction, sternly tells Daniel that it wasn't that funny and to stop making that noise. Daniel, still giggling, apologizes to Liliana. Liliana politely reassures him that it is all right. The contrast between the stiff prince and his chaotic friend suggests their friendship is held together by sheer force of habit and mutual suffering. William shifts his position and takes a seat directly beside Liliana on the sofa. Liliana maintains a pleasant expression while internally questioning his sudden change in arrangement, recalling that he had been positioned across from her just moments before. She pieces together his behavior and comes to a quiet realization. The room's layout reveals William's deliberate choice to claim the space next to her, ensuring no other man could occupy it while she remains his temporary fiancée. Liliana reflects on his earlier coldness, wondering why he hadn't shown such consideration from the very beginning. As she ponders this, she becomes acutely aware that William has begun to stare at her with intense, unblinking focus. Rumor has it that the prince's intense staring is actually just him mentally calculating dessert portions, but Liliana isn't taking any chances. William reaches out and selects a small pastry from the tiered stand. Liliana's cheerful demeanor instantly shatters into panic, as she fears he might have noticed a stray crumb on her cheek. Daniel watches the exchange with a visibly tense expression, bracing himself for the impending interaction. The palace staff whispers that any crumb left on a noble lady's face is considered a diplomatic incident, explaining Liliana's sudden alarm. Instead of pointing out a mess, William brings the small cake directly to Liliana's lips, offering it to her. Liliana stares at him in stunned silence, completely caught off guard by the gesture. In the background, Daniel's jaw drops as he watches the scene unfold, utterly bewildered by his friend's actions. It is said that the prince has never personally fed anyone a single crumb in his entire life, making this act more shocking than a sudden change in tax law. Liliana accepts the offered bite and swallows it down, her eyes wide with uncertainty. Daniel watches in sheer disbelief, questioning whether they are truly serious as he processes the fact that she actually ate it. Overwhelmed by the sheer impossibility of the moment, Daniel's legs give out and he collapses onto the nearby table, completely fainting from the shock. Court physicians are reportedly on standby, as fainting from royal affection is apparently a common affliction among the prince's inner circle. William questions what kind of game is being played as he holds out a small container of delicacies. Liliana hastily covers her mouth, realizing her quick bite was merely a reflex, though she quickly acknowledges the exquisite flavor. William watches her closely, his expression unreadable. Rumor has it that the royal kitchen staff keeps a ledger of every snack consumed by the nobility, and William is personally auditing the accounts. Liliana internally protests that there is no need for him to do this, believing she could easily sample every dessert on her own if given the chance. She wonders if he intends to remain in this position until she finally complies. Resigned, she takes another bite directly from his hand while William maintains his intense, unwavering gaze. It is a well-known fact among the palace chefs that no guest has ever refused the Ice Prince's personal serving, mostly out of sheer terror. William proceeds to feed her yet another piece, and despite the awkwardness, Liliana cannot deny the exceptional taste. A faint smirk crosses William's face as he watches her eat. In the background, Daniel buries his face in his hands, utterly overwhelmed by the bizarre scene unfolding before him. Daniel is reportedly considering early retirement after witnessing his stoic friend turn into a personal waiter. Liliana finally depart, her face flushed with embarrassment as she reflects on the profound humiliation of having an audience while the prince personally fed her sweets until he was completely satisfied. Yet, despite the mortification, a quiet realization lingers in her mind as she walks away. The palace gossip mills are already spinning theories that the prince uses dessert as a tactical weapon to break down emotional defenses. As they leave the room, William alters his stride to match her pace, a stark contrast to his earlier haste. Liliana senses that something is fundamentally off about his behavior, questioning just who this man truly is. William, noticing her confusion, casually asks if she simply didn't get enough treats, completely misreading her internal turmoil. Court etiquette guides clearly did not prepare Liliana for a prince who treats high tea like a competitive eating challenge. William instructs a servant to wrap up the remaining sweets so Liliana's family can bring them home. Liliana thanks him for his consideration. William then places a hand gently on Liliana's head, telling her not to worry about it. Liliana is left stunned by the gesture, her face flushing red as a maid in the background gasps in shock. Rumor has it that the prince's hand is usually reserved for patting royal hounds, making this a confusing but high honor. Overwhelmed by the situation, a maid trips over her own dress in the background, scrambling to regain her footing. Liliana leans against the wall, exhausted and embarrassed, muttering that Danny Mako laughs too much. Daniel continues to chuckle in the background, reminding everyone that the ghost of a smile from Prince William is said to be a sign of a coming storm. Liliana asks William if he is talking about Daniel, and William confirms that he is. Liliana explains that as payback for Daniel laughing at her while she was being fed, she gave him the embarrassing nickname of Danny Mako. She declares that she wants him to be humiliated when the woman he fancies catches sight of his nose hair. William finds this idea delightful and announces that he will also be saying a daily prayer to make Daniel's nose hair grow at 3 times the normal rate. Liliana is horrified by this escalation. It seems the prince has a petty streak that matches Liliana's own, suggesting their marriage might be more of a comedy routine than a political alliance. William laughs openly at the thought. The castle staff watching from the doorway whisper in awe, wondering if the sun will fall from the sky tomorrow now that Prince William has laughed, with some calling it a sign of a miracle. William remarks that it is a cute curse. Liliana protests that nose hair is frightening and ruins even the most fashionable of people, insisting that it is a prayer, not a curse. William smiles, agreeing that he will have to keep an eye on his own nose hair too, looking at Liliana with amusement. Liliana cheerfully encourages William to treat her more like a good friend than a fiancé, internally confident that no prince would truly want to marry a young lady with so much to say about nose hair. She is certain that Prince William will soon change his mind and ask for a different match. Rumor has it that Liliana's strategy to sabotage the engagement involves becoming the most unappealing bride possible, a tactic that is ironically endearing to the prince. Despite her expectations, William firmly declares that he has chosen to marry Lady Liliana. Liliana stares at him in wide-eyed shock, her plan crumbling before her. Liliana screams internally, wondering why this is happening. She had expected to go home with the engagement cancelled and a spring in her step. The king, however, is delighted, noting that Earl Villiers had suggested the matter be decided once William was sure of his desires. William confirms to his father that he has indeed made up his mind. It seems the Earl's suggestion backfired, trapping his daughter in the very engagement he hoped to avoid. Liliana realizes the disaster occurred because she didn't turn William down when they were alone, blaming the interruption by Daniel, whom she has nicknamed Danny Macho, for preventing her escape. She furiously prays that Daniel will always be missing one sock from every pair. William, seemingly annoyed by his friend's earlier behavior, declares he will never forgive Danny Macho either. He takes Liliana's hand, telling her he will be counting on her, leaving her to let out a defeated sigh. The palace servants are already taking bets on how long it will take for Daniel to lose a sock, given the combined wrath of the prince and his new fiancée. The decision is finalized as the family prepares to depart. One of William's brothers remarks that he never thought their elder brother would actually find a woman he wanted to marry. William stands silently, his expression unreadable as the engagement is sealed. The royal family is thrilled, unaware that the new crown princess is currently plotting her brother-in-law's laundry misfortunes.